Hey folks, man, this is Monk. We are back with another episode of Classes of Cinematics. And I'm joined as always with my co-host, Bobby Blockbuster.
Yo, yo, yo!
Yeah, folks, we got a fun one today. We're going to be talking about Edward Scissorhands from 1990. And this film was directed by Tim Burton. And in this story, a scientist builds an animated human being, the gentle Edward. The scientist dies before he can finish assembling Edward, though, leaving the young man with a freakish appearance accentuated by the scissor blades he has instead of hands. Loving suburban saleswoman Peg discovers Edward and takes him home, where he falls for Peg's teen daughter. However, despite his kindness and artistic talent, Edward's hands make him an outcast.
You mean to tell me being an artist is not just going to be enough?
Nah,
Come on.
Not enough these days,
Come on.
man. Yeah, you got to post on social media, too.
Jeez.
You got to do a lot. But this film has a cast. We've got Winona Ryder, Johnny Depp, Dianne Wiest, Anthony Michael Hall. Damn, I didn't even recognize him in this. Yeah, okay, all right, bet. Kathy Baker, Alan Arkin, Vincent Price pops up in this, and Robert Oliveri. And I guess these are going to make up our mains. There's a lot of people in this that are cool. Shout out to Dick Anthony Williams' author, Officer Allen. You know? Yeah, so let's get into this story, man. I guess the first thing, though, is kind of interesting. I first watched this at my uncle's house, man. Shout out to my Uncle Bubble. Watched this on a tape, one weekend, I'm staying at his house, with my cousin visiting. You know how you do that back in the day? You go visit a cousin, stay for the week. Maybe your parents want to go out of town or go party and hang out, so one of your relatives babysits you and turns to a sleepover. And he always had a lot of movies, man. I remember watching The Hobbit, the animated one at his house too, man. That Precious. That scared me, bro.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I first saw this in the theater. This was one of our theater experiences. And by this point, cool. By this point, I mean, Burton was renowned, you know what I'm saying? Like, it got to the point where, with Batman or with Beetlejuice, he was still kind of finding his lane. But I feel like by this film, he was polished in the direction in which he wanted to steer his audiences in.
I think that Batman, probably the success of Batman gave him some wiggle room to put this out, because on paper, this sounds really strange.
Yeah, but with his creative genius and that whole goth approach, I mean, because, not for nothing, while we get into it, I mean, the story, I love the story because this film is like, for me, it's relatable for all the wrong reasons, but I love it for all the right reasons. Its entertainment value is high. The story is so layered, but it thrives in its simplicity. You see what I'm saying? And like, for me, I feel like, we were talking about this earlier. This is pretty much Tim Burton's version of Frankenstein.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But what makes it great to me is because it separates itself enough. And, it makes Edward feel uniquely his own.
Yeah. He's playing around with that, material, created by Mary Shelley. But honestly, right before we started, I told you, this might be the best Frankenstein film.
Yeah.
If you think about it, you got this guy who created this being, and in the process, there's an accident. And, he passes away before he finished, but Edward is stuck in this castle, this castle-like thing, this really dark, big house, for years. I don't even know how long he's been there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And then, Peg as a door-to-door, like Avon lady type salesman, which is crazy, just has no fear, bro. I could see her. She probably goes to the projects out here selling wares, but she just...
It was funny. My daughter said when we was watching it, she was like, she does not have the survival instinct. Like, she just kept going. I mean, the house was creepy from a distance, and she just kept...
That's funny to me because in some ways, I think that is some people's survival instinct. I'm so nice, like... It like you wouldn't even think of doing nothing to me. You might at the worst you might be, lady, it's not safe. Get out of here, lady.
Some people that you're right, they're
depending on who you run into.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true.
But still, like I think
some of them gonna be like, you're a Vic.
I think that helps her because I feel like no matter whose door she would knock on, she's gonna be the same bubbly, cheerful. And maybe that's what, makes her successful.
And you see she's met with resistance. That's what pushes her up the mountain to go to find Edward in the first place. But, that's the one thing I like about it is also, yes, this hits on Frankenstein notes heavy, but I also feel like, they pulled a little bit from like the Hunchback of Notre Dame, even like King Kong, where you bring what is perceived as a creature out of their element and thrust them into a new environment. You know what I mean? And that's where this story really kind of changes gears and picks up the pace is when she takes him down off the mountain and kind of submerges him into, normalcy, suburban normalcy. And that is like one of my favorite scenes is that drive down the hill when he's just wide-eyed and just looking at everything. Everything is new. He's shocked.
He's never seen nothing outside of those walls. There's no TV. There's no internet. So all his life that he knows is in that field, in that building. And maybe he looks out into this valley and just sees these buildings and cars moving around, but he doesn't know what any of this is like up close. And that's really cool. It gives it a little bit of whimsy and wonder, it's driving into this town.
It raises the emotional value because he feels like because he's so unaware, so innocent, you want to care for him. He's like a child, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, that look of just amazement is like, man, and it's wild because from a distance, you see him, he looks scary. You know what I'm saying? But then I just love how as the story progresses and you peel back these layers, he's like, man, this dude, he's harmless.
Yeah. It's an interesting story, man, because, as it goes, it's mostly about him being this fish out of water and learning to adapt. And he has skills with his scissors, gets real popular by, trimming these bushes for the neighbors. And also some of the neighbors is also like a town where there's not a lot going on. A lot of gossip, a lot of people minding other people's business. So he becomes a thing of entertainment too for a while until I think the people just get tired of him. The novelty wears off and then they start to fear him, start the rumors, start, speculating. Once they feel like they can't use him anymore, then he becomes a bit monstrous in a lot of their eyes. There is one lady though who's off the rip though, kind of this guy ain't right.
The holy roller, she's like, nah, man. But and that's the other thing too, because like I said, when he comes off the mountain, initially at the beginning of the film, he's pure, he's untarnished. And then as he spends more time there and he just watches the people change and maneuver around him, he sees that, the world is not how he viewed it. It's dangerous and people will turn their backs on you. And that's the thing, like you said, it's with him to not be a human, like they call him a humanoid or a creation, to see how humans you sit and they love things when they're brand new, and then they get tired of you, and then they love you when you're gone. It's like that. This is how things work, and humans do this so often. And for him to just see that firsthand and even experience it himself, it's really cool to see that, and it's done in this fantastical, bright pastel suburbia. Like this story would have also felt the same if it was in a dungeon or took place in a medieval village. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It definitely has the elements of Frankenstein. It's just Tim Burtonized, with his whimsy, his production design and all that. It's definitely taking that story and reskinning it in a way that only Burton could. And also, I feel like I would like to see. This is one that I would be cool to see pass through all directors. Like, what would this look like in Scorsese's hands? What would this look like? I mean, we've seen what it looked like in Del Toro's hands. What would this look like in Spike Lee's hands?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Or Steve Wan.
Yeah. What else would they, add to this?
But another thing that I like about this version of the Frankenstein story is the Frankenstein story is told through Dr. Frankenstein. You know what I'm saying? This one is told through Scissorhands' eyes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's really cool to kind of get that POV perspective. That's why they said that's why the houses were all colorful and it looks so bright in there, because he never saw nothing like that. And when you see, how he's living, it's dark, it's desolate, it's very it could be engulfing, consuming the darkness, and so that to make it like seem that extra vibrant was really cool.
Yeah. So this thing is full of, great cast and characters, man. And I guess to start with Edward, played by Johnny Depp, who's kind of a name at this time, this interesting, one of his first films was being a victim in Nightmare on Elm Street, and now he's playing the monster, when we get around to this. So that's kind of cool.
Full circle.
And he was big at this time. I think, wasn't he, was he a 21 Jump Street kid?
It was supposed to be Richard Grieco that made it to Johnny Depp level, but Johnny Depp thrived.
So he's coming off. He's got some notoriety, man. Probably what's helped get this film made with his star power, and he's effective at this monster. He's vocal, unlike some versions of the monster. So he has. But it's very limited personality. He's almost like a child in a way, a lot of ways. So, and I think it's cool. Like you said, we're not seeing this through, Frankenstein's point of view is through the monster's point of view,
Yes.
but I also get a strong sense that Edward's personality was defined by, his creator.
Yes.
We see some glimpses of them interacting.
Yes.
And I think that's why Edward is so kind of gentle and wide-eyed at the world. I feel like maybe later on, if they had more time together, he would eventually get more self-sufficient.
Yeah.
But it's cool, man, to see him, kind of move through this world with this childlike innocence,
Yes, absolutely. And Johnny Depp, I mean, he kills the role because, even though Edward doesn't speak often, like his facial expressions, you see a lot in his eyes. I mean, they're deep. They pull you in, and you want to know more about him. Like he portrays that mystique, that almost like what is really going on, even though you feel like you got it all figured out because of his innocence.
Yeah, it's a real physical performance, man.
Yes,
I think it stands out. You would see this is the beginning of Jack Sparrow. Like these are the first steps of Johnny, where we would get to another, physical performance of a character,
And not for nothing, this was him and Burton's first time teaming up. And then they teamed up multiple times. Sleepy Hollow and then Sweeney Todd. And speaking of Sweeney Todd, Burton actually intended for this to be a musical when it first came out. But, they felt like this would be a better direction. But and I feel like the ultimate contrast to Edward Scissorhands' innocence is Dianne Wiest playing Peg as the mom, because when she comes in, I mean, it is her motherly instinct to instantly nurture. You know what I'm saying? She sees the bird that fell out the nest. She wants to take it in and tend to it and care for it and show him the right way. Like it's so wild because like, in her own way, she is almost as naive as Edward when it comes to the harsh reality and the cruelness of the world. Like, if Edward would have just stayed in their house, he would have never wanted to go back to the mansion. You know what I'm saying? Because he was loved, he was taken care of, and he was learning. And, Dianne Wiest, with her presence, she's such a movie mom. Like, it's like, man, like,
she's really
is
great,
that what
man.
it's like? I mean, my
She's
God.
kind of like rough around the edges in the beginning. I mean, the way she meets him is kind of crazy, so I could understand that. But she's like, really cold and standoffish to him at first until she eventually warms up to him and gets drawn in, by his
the fear
kind
what
nature.
you don't understand, and plus, she felt like that he was invading her space, judgmental, and it's wild because Winona Ryder actually said that her portrayal of Kim, she was really against it. She didn't like the role because it reminded her of the people in her middle school that bullied her.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. She was kind of a monster a little bit. A monster.
Yeah, almost like her character reminded me of Jawbreaker, like the elite, the prestigious. I mean, and she has the jock boyfriend and all that going on, but it's nice to see her
the dumbest
jock ever.
The
and like
dumbest
plot. We'll get into his idiocracy in a second, but I mean, I really feel like, it's cool to see Kim, just as she kind of unravels and really opens up to Edward, accepting him for who he is and really seeing him behind the facade or whatever, the image that everybody has of him. You know what I'm saying? Like that part when she's like, man, I want you to hug me. And he's like, man, I can't. And she like finds a way. It's like, come on, dog, you trying to make some eyeball sweat. That's a good way to do it,
Yeah, it's funny, man. It's crazy, man, dealing with that. But she's cool, man. She definitely plays a good, like, I feel like it adds a romantic element to this story too. You know what I'm saying? With the fantasy and so I think that's cool to add that. Gives this thing a little bit more dimension.
Because this one is like I said, it has a lot of emotional value, and it definitely enhances that, especially when you think of the original Frankenstein story and how Frank never really had. I mean, he wanted the bride, but the bride didn't want him, and then so it's like they emphasize the loneliness aspect where Edward is still he's alone, but there are people that are filling the void, which that's and that's just really nice to see because. Everybody need that sometimes, but like on that note, Kim does have a douchebag boyfriend played by what's this man's name? Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah. And he is wow. Like if this was Beauty and the Beast, he would be the Gaston element, just dumb jock.
I forgot Gaston. Oh my God, I ain't seen that joke in a minute. Yeah, there's always some guy in the middle, always. Like the evil suitor.
Yeah, the one that don't appreciate what he got when he got it, and then mad when it's gone. Like it's like and it's wild because he wears this on his sleeve, and it just like he just reminded me like. when I was in high school, I knew people like this. You know what I'm saying? I think we all did. We've all encountered people that just thought they were bigger than, the price of admission. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And he wears that well.
Yeah, he's crazy, man. Shout out to who's the dad? Is that Alan Arkin's Bill?
Yeah, Alan Arkin.
Yeah, I like him too, man, because he's kind of a guy that's, he's the family matriarch, even though Peg's running the show clearly. Yes. But he's in the back doing his thing. But he does have these moments of fatherly advice with Edward, and Edward is just like, man, I don't know what you're talking about, old man, but I'm just sitting here. Right. But he's got an interesting, quirky view of the world. That's kind of interesting, man. You know what I'm saying? He's not a tyrant, and he's also, willing to give his kids guidance, but not push them. It's like, I'm gonna give you the word, but you still got room to go out there and figure it out.
Walk the path. And I like how, like you said, he's not the enforcer. It's almost like he's subdued in a sense where he's used to the fact that his mom his wife is the one who brings home lost pets. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is nothing new to him. He's like, oh, all right, so we doing this again? All right,
yeah, this is it's a grown, almost grown,
Yes,
teenage.
It's
I don't even know how old Edward is. This motherfucker could be 25.
Exactly. Who knows?
No.
Who knows? But you can't have no Edward without the creator. And this was Vincent Price's last film on screen.
Vince got some really good moments in this, man.
He has some wonderful moments. And like I said, I was watching this with my daughter during one of my rewatches, and she was like, he really reminds me of Geppetto from Pinocchio.
Yeah, that's kind of what's going on.
But again, with the film, like, it talks about loneliness and all these things where that's how Edward was created.
That's a good comparison.
Very good.
We got to get you on the show one day.
I told her that. I was like, man, I might have to take that one. She was like, you better give me my credit. I don't know. No, shout out my daughter Asia, for that one. But yeah, man, Vincent Price, like, that just, it added to the heartwarming feel, and then it's really cool because as we're introduced to him, you see that cookie making machine.
Yeah.
So you see, like, he's got
a legacy of inventing things and creating,
and also being up in that mansion all by himself.
How do you get all his bread though? Do you think he was like a big balling kind of inventor? He got a few,
the owner of patents. Farms.
He making all them cookies. He got a few like big patents, and he just kind of retired, and still likes to make stuff.
Yeah, so he's like, all right, I done made it to the top of the mountain. Now I need a friend. But it was really cool.
Yeah, and there's just a big cast of neighbors too. I do like the personality of these people in without getting into the individuals, but like I said, they're nosy, they're pushy. Once he comes into town, it's kind of interesting. It's like, yo, did you see Peg? She had some guy in her car. Yeah. Did you get a look at him?
And
it's like a relay. They're on the phone, like calling down the line and like just checking in, and it's crazy. And then that gives this town, like, you could just tell that, the soap operas and whatever else they got to do, stay home, cooking and cleaning, that's just not enough. We need some entertainment around here. Yeah. And Edward becomes the entertainment. It's crazy.
And it's wild because they give the impression that everything is systematic. Like, when you watch all the husbands go to work, they all leave at the same time. Man. They all come home at the same time.
It's cool because I feel like there's been films totally inspired by those scenes of everyone in the town getting up at the same time, going to work, driving out in the same kind of car. There's been films just kind of poking away and looking at the idea of everyone having this same cookie cutter day-to-day life. You get up, you go to work, come home, sleep, eat, repeat. And it's just like, it's kind of interesting, to see it visually done this way, man. I love that stuff, man.
Especially when it revolves around the how we view suburban living. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It's like, like you said, it's just, you got it made, it's systematic, you just get up, rinse, wash, repeat. It's wild.
Yeah, the houses are kind of all the same, just different colors. Maybe it's the same layout, but we're going to flip it. You know what I'm saying? It's like the old racing video games where you're riding on the same track, like Super Mario Kart, but then they'll do the reverse and you're running into so I'm like, oh, this is crazy.
Exactly. Yeah, man. But another thing that really stands out in this film, outside of this great cast, is the effects when it revolves around, the makeup designs, the costume designs. And shout out to V. Neal. She's the one who did the makeup for Edward Scissorhands. And it's really wild because, like, when you look at him, I mean, especially after like watching like a movie like The Crow or other like goth inspired films, he has that goth look really well, like with the hair, the
I mean, this is really think about it, this is Batman Begins, in a way, like when you're looking at, especially the house, the big house, the big mansion, it definitely has those vibes and aesthetics.
Or Nightmare Before Christmas too.
Yeah, that too.
It has that.
But even then, the suburban stuff looks like what he did in Pee Wee Herman, Pee Wee's Big Adventure. So he's combining a bunch of things together.
It's really cool, and then I like the simplicity in the makeup, like to have him scarred up, but he's not like grotesque or hideous. He's still endearing. You know what I'm saying? Like minus the scissor hands, you want to give him a hug. Like, damn, dog, you look like you need a hug. And then, on that note,
or a drink.
Yeah, well, wait, he tried that. That didn't work out too well for him.
He gave too much, man. He gave that man like 5 shots in 1 cup.
Yeah, they told him it was lemonade. It's like, damn, you wrong. But the high point of his whole look, his costume and everything is the actual scissor hands, and Stan Winston created.
I know, that was crazy. When I rewatched it, I didn't know that. And to see that pop up in the credits, that it was Stan Winston.
Yeah, and it's so cool.
Studio that put those the makeup and
it's so
effects
cool because of the attention to detail. Like if you look, each individual finger is a different pair of scissors. So they did a lot of research to see what kind of different shears there are, different gardening tools, even barber scissors, and each one is a unique design in it of itself. And that was just like to put that amount of detail into it. When you think that Edward Scissorhands, the look of him was pretty much was a drawing that Tim Burton did in like high school or something, of just a slim dude with blades for hands. And it was like he said it was a way for him to artistically show how he was like feeling alone and kind of isolated. Didn't have a lot of friends, and outcasted in a sense. And that was a way for him to kind of show it artistically. And for Stan Winston to take that and create the hands and not make it look like the Freddy Krueger claw.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think also, I would think they probably had other hands at some of the other stuff that would come in, like the bush sculptures and, things like that. And maybe even some of the, helping to get some of the look of that castle in it too, man, Yeah. So, but definitely appreciate his contribution to this, man. That definitely makes it dope. But yeah, also, man, this takes place in this kind of suburbia, kind of, I think that's kind of a cool thing too. Like at least in my neighborhood, there was a house.
Yep.
When I used to live over in the Belford Towers, man, it was this random house in the middle of all this apartment kind of almost urban living space, even though you would probably consider that suburbs, but at that time that area definitely was more commercial, industrial. And we had this one freaky house, yo. I used to look out, dude, I used to look out my window, and we was kids, and we'd be like, yo, who's in there? And it was always be whispers, and people would always say somebody in there killing people, stuff like that. Or some dude would be like, man, I was looking over there out my window the other day, and there was some dude standing out there, and I'm just like, and this kind of brings me back to that, like that one house up to the top that in this, they don't think anyone lives in there, or this has long been abandoned.
Like you said, it's intriguing, but also intimidating at the same time.
Yeah.
And, they said that Burton, like he grew up in California. I want to say it was like not Burtonsville, so Burkesville, some suburban town in California. And he wanted to shoot this there, but they ended up settling for a cul-de-sac in Florida. And they said that this is a real life cul-de-sac. The only thing that they did was change the painting jobs on the
colors of the houses.
And they used 4 paints. That's if you look at them, it's only 4 different colors. That rinse, wash, repeat mindset. And that's what really.
Then you get that juxtaposition. It's like Dracula's castle, and then just regular suburban neighborhood.
I mean, it really gives the look like, why would you want to go up there?
Yeah.
Like what is up there for you? What could possibly good be up there waiting for you? And and I like it because it's like, it really is beauty in the eye of the beholder, because like from Edward's window, he's looking down at all those bright colors and everything like, man, that could be scary. But then on the flip side, they looking up at that, so it's really, it's just, fear of the unknown.
Both places have, that idea of wonder. What's going on there? From both points of view.
Yes,
What's going on up there? What's going on down there?
Yes. And it really encapsulates that. And, another thing that stands out about this film is the score. This was the 4th time that Danny Elfman and Burton got together. But one thing I did not know about this is he actually, before he reached out to Burton, he reached out to the lead singer of The Cure. to see if he would do the soundtrack, but he was working on another project. And the dude from The Cure is the one who did the song for The Crow and all that stuff. So yeah, he's like big dude. The lead singer from The Cure looked like Edward Scissorhands.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, got the same hair and everything. It's wild.
That's interesting, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of Elfman, man, classic scores under his belt. But recently too, man, he just did the score for the Sam Raimi film that just came out, Send Help, and it really helps that film. That's a great film. I would encourage anyone to go see that while it's in theaters now. Like, really good. It's back. If you've been waiting for Raimi to get off the superhero stuff and get back to a Raimi type film, this is it, man. Okay, like that. Yeah,
I definitely got that one on my radar. Great. And you know, another thing I like about Elfman is he has a very unique sound. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you say, it's got that whimsical. It's got that like that mysteriousness, but it also has the creep element to it. Like, it's like okay, this is the buildup, but when is something horrific going to happen? You know, it's great at setting the tone. And and Elfman actually said, alongside with Burton said that this was his favorite film that he did. Elfman said this was his favorite score. You know, so I mean, a lot of energy, effort went into this film with them not really, you know, I guess not expecting it to be a big, huge success, and it wasn't highly promoted. They even said that they wanted to let this film kind of create its own lane because of the comparisons with Frankenstein and other stuff that was going on at the time. You know, and it did that. I mean, it came in on a $20 million budget and ended up grossing 86 mil. So, you know, it did what it needed to do. It is a cult classic. And I mean, even though Edward Scissorhands might not be up on the Horror Icon Hall of Fame, he is still a figment in his own right. And highly revered. And you know what I'm
I think for the fact that this film just really isn't like what I would call scary.
No.
I mean, there are some creepy moments, especially in the beginning when we're meeting him. And, you know, but once this thing settles in, it's not a scary film at all,
Not
man.
at
You know,
all.
he just happens to be kind of a dark, you know, almost an emo type character. Like, if he was in school and normal, he would definitely be emo. He'd be one of the dark kids, you know, with the just dressing all black, might make their face pale.
Coat.
You
Yeah,
know what I'm
you
saying?
come in with the crow makeup or looking like Stang the wrestler.
Some eyeliner or something, man. You know,
Yeah.
just one of those type kids with the black fingernails. But yeah, it's not scary. You know what I'm saying?
Not at all. It's heartwarming. It's almost like it hits to me the same way like as a coming of age film would, you know, because we're just riding this wave as Edwards is experiencing all these experiences, you know, and I like because, you know, as the film changes temperature periodically throughout, it makes us as viewers change temperatures too. Like as we start viewing the neighbors different and people that are seeking out to harm him or, you know, bringing bad vibes in his little world or doing him dirty. It's like, you know, we really root for Edward in this. And I mean, this film, it has such a high value, a large place in my heart. I watch this film often, but I haven't seen it in a little while. And it was refreshing watching this one, especially like, you know, there's certain things I got going on in my own personal little world. And it tugged on a couple heartstrings for me to just, you know, because of the key elements that this one provides. And it was like I said, it was refreshing to say the least.
Yeah. It's definitely one of the best of the era. One of Depp's best. One of Burton's best. One of Elfman's best. Like, everything comes together to be like, this is definitely a generational film, man, and it's definitely a classic.
Definitely.
You know.
Definitely.
Well, I think with that, man, we can wrap this up, man. Make sure you go check this out. I still hope that one day Disney Plus changes the way they do their subtitles. They're just so ugly. I hate them. You know what I'm saying? But I'm also at an era now where I gotta watch stuff with subtitles. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if my ears are failing me or what. Like, it's just sometimes, you know, just the way I guess some of these sounds are mixed too, man. It's hard to make certain things out without turning your TV on like 30 and blasting out your neighbors. Like,
right.
But yeah, man, this was a really good time. You know, really great film, man. Make sure you watch it again. Make sure you subscribe to our channel, man, and check us out. We're going to be back for more. We're on Instagram at Classic Cinematics. We're also on TikTok. And you can catch me at Monkey Blood on Twitter and Instagram. And we're going to be back for more.
And this is Bobby Blockbuster. As always, catch me on the next show.
All right, folks, we out.
Peace.